Hi and welcome. Today I have another review video of the Arrtx Soft Pastels. They come in this nice box together with a color chart with the pigment numbers and the numbers of the pastels on them. And wow, I think they are really pretty. I often use pastels when I work in my sketchbook. And I always combine it with mixed media. I usually never use pastels on their own. And if you are someone who wants to paint only with soft pastels, I'm not sure if I am the right person, but if you like sketching or playing with mixed media and use some pastels, then this video might be nice for you. I will also do an abstract landscape in mixed medias using other products from Arrtx and Paul Rubens, and also these soft pastels. I would say Arrtx is kind of the student grade range of Paul Rubens, and I recently reviewed also their soft pastels, and we will compare them later in the video a little bit. These are quite creamy. I really like that. They are not as chunky as the Paul Rubens ones, and it's the same as with the other set. Some of the pastels go down very nice and smooth, and some are quite scratchy. And I don't have the best paper in my sketchbook for pastels because it's very smooth. It doesn't have any grip to rub off and take the pigment. And I will try later some of the pastels on a pastel paper just to see if this makes a difference. I really like the color range they come in because there are many light color tones, and I also like how they blend on my paper because that's the sketchbook I am usually using, and for me it's important if I like the texture. You have to excuse my voice a little bit. I have a cold and my voice is not the best today. I will now stop blending everything because that takes quite a lot of time, and I will just swatch the colors. And here you can see that this one is a color that is quite scratchy. As in comparison, some are super creamy and go down so soft and nice. What I really like about these is that they are not as messy as the Paul Rubens ones. But I have to say, I have the feeling that the Paul Rubens ones are more pigmented than the Arrtx, which would make sense because that is kind of the artist grade quality. For me, that's not the most important point because I mix the pastels with other stuff in my sketchbook. And so it's not important how high the pigmentation of the pastels is. This is also quite a scratchy color, but I love this color, so I hope that maybe there's just a coating, and when you get this off, it will work a bit better. What was I saying? They are not as messy, and that's what I really like because for the ones that are quite messy, I usually only use them outside. So when I do sketching on location, I have a little box with me where I have some pieces of the pastels and I use them outside. And these ones I would also use inside because they are not as messy as the others. When I'm working with soft pastels, I usually use a fixative also in my sketchbook, and I also always lay a piece of transparent paper or any kind of scrap paper in between the pages to avoid that I get a messy spread. And that works quite nice. What I really like about pastels, you can create so many different textures with them, and you can also lay down a big block of color in a short time, and that's what I really like about them. I also often use them together with water, although they are not meant to be used with water, but I really like the texture you get, and that's quite interesting for backgrounds, or if you do landscape drawings, then you can really create interesting marks and textures with pastels. I also really love the darker colors, the neutral ones of the Arrtx range or palette, because they are quite nicely, and I think I would use a lot of them regularly. I like to compare them a little, and here is my little box with the pastels I have nearby my side, and I take them to the garden, and sometimes I use them on my desk with my favorite colors. And this is one of the Paul Rubens pastels, and I don't know if you can see it, but this goes down quite more chunky compared to the Arrtx. I picked colors that looked similarly because I don't have the exact same color, and I think you can see that the pigmentation of the Paul Rubens is better than the Arrtx ones, and well, I would not say the blending because I just had laid down not enough maybe to blend, but you need more of the Arrtx colors to get the same pigment saturation, I would say. And also it always depends a little bit on the colors. I will just pick the colors I like the most from the Arrtx ones. I'd put them into my box that I have right next to me to work with. Let's try another one. This is a green, and I'm going to pick a similar green from Arrtx. And I think it's the same here. Well, there is not much of a difference, maybe a little bit. With the Paul Rubens ones, I broke them in half because I like to have tiny bits with me when I go outside, and that was quite an adventure because they are so chunky and hard that some of them broke in just into little pieces, and I am not able to use them. I believe that this might not happen with the Arrtx, but I really like how compact they are, so I will not break them. I would just pick the ones out that I like the most to use them. Here I got a pastel paper, and I will try the pastels on this one as well, just to see if this makes a difference. And it does make a difference because the pastel paper is rough, and it takes a lot of the pigment from the pastels, and that's quite nice and gives you a much more intense color than on the smooth paper. And here I'm trying that yellow on my smooth paper from the sketchbook because it doesn't go down as easy as some of the others, but that does not happen on the pastel paper because it's rough and it takes the pigment from the pastel. So I think the Arrtx ones have more binder in them that makes them also more stable, and they don't break as easy as the Paul Rubens ones. but I believe the Paul Rubens ones have less binder and more pigment in them. So it's always what you like to use or what you prefer. For me, I prefer the Arrtx ones because they are not as chunky and not as messy to work with. And I will pick out the colors I like the most and the ones that I feel go down very nice on my smooth paper to use. And here I'm just comparing the Paul Rubens, and I think it's the colors are much brighter and much more intense compared to the Arrtx. I have a lot of fun experimenting here with the colors and blending them on that paper. It's quite interesting texture and yeah, a way to add color to something. I usually don't do this, and so I really enjoyed it. Maybe I will do some more on this pastel paper with just using some of these soft pastels. I think I'm going to mix a green now just to see if you can mix the colors. Not sure if this is important because they come in such a big range of different color tones that you maybe don't need to mix so many colors. What I think is that also the Paul Rubens mix a bit better than the Arrtx. I will now give you kind of an insight how I like playing in my sketchbook when I just paint and draw. And I start with gouache paints. These are, I believe, also from Arrtx. I will give you the links of all the products I'm using here. I have these for more than a year. I believe it might be 2 years already. And they have dried out, but I think that's quite usual with gouache paints. And I just spritz them with water, and they have been reactivating very nice. And I just use them to create a little seascape, and I'm just laying down quickly some messy colors. This is how I like to work. I like to use many different materials. I like to play intuitively and not very realistic, but I like to have a picture later that shows something realistic. So this is what I really love doing. And this is, for example, what I'm doing when we are on holidays, and we usually go to Crayons at the beach, and I'm taking tons of supplies with me, and there I just paint the whole day whilst the kids are in the water. I'm sitting outside and I'm painting there. I let the gouache dry before I come in with other mediums, and in my next layer I'm going to start with the pastels, and I'm using the Arrtx pastels, of course. And as I said, you will find links to all the products in the video description, and I might have a discount code, I don't know it at the moment, but then you will find that also in the video description. And this is what I love doing with the pastels. Just add some accents, color, block in some color, layer some stuff, and create texture. And I finished that up with the white pastel to add some highlights. And in my next step, I also will grab the oil pastels. These are the ones from Paul Rubens, the Haya, maybe they are called. And I really love them. I reviewed them a while ago, and I will link up the video in the end cards. And they are quite nice. They are really creamy. They are super nice to work with, and I will use those to add some final layers to the painting. They are super opaque, and you can also add light over dark, and as I'm doing it here, adding in some really deep shadows with a dark color. When I use oil pastels, I always lay a sheet of paper in between. Well, I usually always lay a sheet of paper in between every page, but there it's quite important to do this. Yeah, and that was my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it and you like the finished sketchbook spread, and maybe you are inspired on how you could use your soft pastels in your sketchbook. I will leave you with some photos, and I will link up some of the other review videos from Paul Rubens and Arrtx. And I wish you a wonderful rest of the week. Bye!